I've had so many comments on my posts about gluten. People are very, very up in arms about this. Some believe there's no problem with it whatsoever. Others know they don't feel so well when they eat it. But there's overwhelmingly comments about how when people are in other countries, they eat the gluten and it does not make them feel bad. In the US, they eat the gluten and it does make them feel bad. Well, what could be going on here? Listen, I've been wondering that myself for well over 30 years. In the early 1990s, when I was studying biological medicine, all of the practitioners from Europe, they eat muesli for breakfast and, eat the grains are very important. But all the practitioners in the US are like, our eyes are like this. We can't have our people eating that stuff. We've got to take them off gluten. So lots of theories, but no one's quite sure what the difference is. One theory is the type of wheat that's grown. In the United States, it's a hard red wheat. It's been hybridized over the years to create more protein in the wheat. The gliadin is the part of the gluten that people tend to react to, and so that is more abundant in the hard red wheat. In Europe, on the other hand, it's a softer wheat. It's not as high in protein and does not have as much gliadin in it. The second theory is about chemicals used on the crops. In the US, we use glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, to douse the fields before harvest and weaken the plants, so the harvest can happen easier. But that does not wash off the plants, and so we get a lot more exposure to that toxic chemical. Now, in Europe, they use a lot less glyphosate than we do in the US. They do still use some, and in the US, you could have organic wheat that is not doused with glyphosate, but people still react to it. So, it doesn't help to have the chemicals, and certainly it wrecks the gut, but I don't think that's the reason. The next reason that a lot of people think this happens is that in Europe, people walk more. They're less stressed out because they're on vacation. That maybe those changes are making them not react to the wheat so much. But that doesn't really stand up either, because when people from Europe come on vacation to the US, they start having gastrointestinal problems, eating our wheat. Another major difference between wheat products in Europe and in the US is they do not use preservatives. So when you buy a loaf of French bread, in France, it's understood you got to finish that thing the same day. It's going to be hard and crusty the next day. You can use it for croutons, but it's not going to be good as bread. In the US, we use a lot of preservatives in our bread, and lots of people don't do well with those. So the jury's out. It's probably a combination of factors that contributes to this. I still think we're missing some puzzle pieces. It's been a question I've had for all these years, and I will continue to search for the answers. But the bottom line is, if you do not tolerate wheat well, it's going to be a very big benefit if you go to Europe, travel to Europe. It was actually one of my favorite parts of my trip, is being able to eat some of the things that I can't eat here in the US. Have fun.